In life, we have many obstacles that we are dealing with, right? And I want to talk about 3 kinds of obstacles this morning that can cause and lead to depression and to defeat. And when I talk about a defeat, I am not necessarily talking about a one-time event, such as a defeat on a football field, when you have the Denver Broncos pummeling somebody, and then they're winning and the other team is losing. Or it can be the other way around, you know, and you experience that loss, and it's just a one-time thing, right? Sometimes we all have these losses and defeats that are just one time. You play one game and you lose, and then you play the next one and you win. I'm not talking about these one-time type of defeats that can happen to anybody here and there. I'm talking about a situation where you are living a life of defeat, day in and day out. And let me see if I can describe that kind of a life. That's a life where you're feeling a depression. That's a life where you're feeling down. That's a life when negative thoughts come out, negative words come out, nothing is going right in your life. This could happen to somebody who is very poor, or it could also happen to somebody who is very wealthy. I gave an example in the class downstairs. By the way, we have 2 Sabbath school classes in this church. The adult ones, they meet downstairs. A Spanish class meets in the church. Just for those of you who don't know, there is a lot of stuff going on here. And I made this example. There was a friend of mine that I had who was a pastor for all of his life, 35, 40 years, retired, had a good retirement money. His wife received some inheritance from the folks, you know, and they were living good, wealthy life. You know, you walk into their house and you see expensive furniture and expensive furnishings and expensive car in the garage, and everything is there. You know, you can see that these people have everything that anybody would want. You know, a $2,000 refrigerator, and I mean everything just, you know, American dream. You know, and yet they were living a life of defeat, because when you talk to them, everything is negative, everything is bad, nothing is going their way. The prism that they look at life through is just negativity and negativity and negativity. They get up in the morning and nothing is going right, nothing is going their way. I got up this morning when I was coming to church, and I was in my car, and the day was kind of lousy, it was kind of cloudy, and it was kind of dark, and I was still thinking in my head 2 to 4 inches or something like that, you know, bad weather, you know. And then I drove by the nursing home that was on my left there on Sheridan and 104th, you know. And immediately I thought to myself, here I am in a beautiful car, driving to church, nicely showered and clean and good clothes, and I have a wallet in my pocket. It doesn't have a lot of money, but it does have some money in it, you know, and I am living a good life, you know. And here is these folks in the nursing home, you know, many of them are suffering with end-of-life issues, with diseases, with illnesses, with abandonment, you know, from their family. I mean, you go to these places, you know, and you see folks who have not seen a family member for 3 or 4 weeks. Debbie is ministering to a beautiful lady, you know, who is a retired person here in our community, and she told us when we visited her that there are sometimes 3 weeks in between her kids coming over to visit her, you know. And she's alone, living in her house, not able to drive, not able to go to the store, not able to do anything, you know. And I thought to myself then when I passed that nursing home, I said, what a wonderful life you have, Gordon. Isn't this a beautiful day? Yeah. You know, and I realized it's a beautiful day, whether it's sunny, whether it's raining, whether it's cold, I don't care. It's a beautiful day. Why? Because God gives you another chance, another opportunity to make a good life for yourself and for the people around you. Amen. And how simple is that to do? How simple is that to do? Just a simple smile, right? Just a simple hug. You don't even realize how many people you can make happy just by giving them a hug. How many people you can make happy just by smiling at them, just by walking over there up to them and looking into their eyes and shaking their hand. And they'll be happy because somebody paid attention to them and somebody cares for them. How many people, let me ask you, would you make happy just by saying to them, I love you, and I care for you, and I'm sorry we haven't talked in such a long time. You see, you have the ability to live a happy, positive life, and you also have the ability to make lives of other people around you also happy and positive. If you do one thing, which is what I did this morning, attitude adjustment, right? Attitude adjustment. Now look, there is a lot of things in this world I want to tell you that just make our lives miserable. That happens a lot. You have circumstances that you cannot control. I'm thinking about the life of Jesus. Jesus came here from heaven. He's the God. He's the Son of God. Look, I can't even imagine how life was for Jesus when he was in heaven. Can you imagine that? I mean, he's the King of Kings, right? I mean, he has literally trillions of angels serving him. Trillions of planets out there in this vast universe that God has created, all serving God. People and beings who have never sinned, you know, all serving God. I mean, we look at the pictures of these temples and of these castles, you know, where kings and queens live. You can go on the internet and you can see the castle where the Queen of England lives, you know, and these fantastic rooms in riches and gold and diamonds and furnishings and everything, you know. You can't even compare. That looks like garbage to what's in heaven, to what Jesus experienced, you see. Tremendous wealth and power, the things that we cannot even imagine. And he leaves all of that and comes to this stinking earth. Where and where does he go? He goes to Israel. You know, over there you get bit by all kinds of bugs. It's hot all day long. You have to walk barefoot in the sand. You know, the sun is burning you to death. You know, he comes there. Why? Because he wants to save you and I. He wants to save the humanity, all of us, right? And what happens to him? What happens to him? After the 9th hour, Jesus cried out with a loud voice, saying, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani, that is, my God, why have you forsaken me? And we all come to that point in our lives at times when we say, oh my God, why have you forsaken me? Why is my life going south all the time? Why is my life not going the way it's supposed to go? You know, and Jesus was right there in that situation. I mean, can you imagine the King of Kings saying this? My God, why have you forsaken me? Have you ever felt that way? Have you ever gone through life and had a period in your life where it was either a financial or a health or a family member or a loss of some kind, whether it's a loved one or job or finances or whatever, where you just sat there and you said, why me, Lord? Why? How come just this happened to me? Why do I need to go through this? Why can't life be better for me? This is exactly what Jesus was going through, you see. And some of those who were standing there when they heard it began saying, this man is calling for Elijah. Immediately one of them ran and taking a sponge, he filled it with sour wine and put it on a reed and gave him a drink. But the rest of them said, let us see whether Elijah will come to save him. The King of Kings is here hanging on the cross. The whole universe is looking. Trillions of angels who would do anything for him at any moment. I mean, all he had to do, he didn't even have to snap his fingers, just to think, you know, and they would be at his feet serving him. They're all witnessing this, you know, and he's dying on that cross, and these people are mocking him. And they're saying, let's see if the Elijah is going to come to help him. And at that point, you know, at that point, I believe that his heart just broke. And I don't know, maybe it was a heart attack at that point, where Jesus just couldn't bear it anymore. Couldn't take it anymore. And Jesus cried out again with a loud voice and yielded up his spirit. In other words, he died. When did he die? He died at the moment when these folks were mocking him, the King of Kings. who came to save them. So Jesus has been there. There is absolutely nothing in your life that's bad enough that Jesus cannot understand. Because he's gone through much worse than you and I will ever be called to go through. That's how, the terrible nature of what was done to him, we can never comprehend, but he can always comprehend the troubles that you are going through right now in your life. So, in life, you have three kinds of troubles. You have troubles that you create for yourself. You dig your own hole. And how many of us are guilty of that, right? And sometimes you never learn, You go over there and you start spending money more than you should, and by the end of the week you don't have money, by the end of the month you don't have money, by the end of the year you don't have money, and all you got is these phone calls from people who are calling you because you owe money. And then you say, I'm never going to do that, and you start saving and you pay your credit cards down, and things go better a little bit, and then you think, oh, I arrived, I'm here, I'm doing good. And then you make a stupid mistake again and you say, oh, I need this or I need that. I have a friend, he's a dentist, he makes a lot of money, he lives in Chicago. And one day he says to me, he says, Gordon, one day I was working on a patient over here, and I was focusing on his teeth, and the thought came into my mind, and this thought was, Steve, you need to buy a motorcycle. And he says, here I am pulling teeth, and doing my thing, and he says, I couldn't get rid of this thought, it just came into my head, and I just couldn't get rid of it. And he says, I tried to focus on the job, and I couldn't get rid of it. He says, all of these pictures started coming into my head, me on a bike, driving down the road, wind hitting me in my face, and my friends with me. And he says, no matter how I tried to rationalize it, he has 3 kids and a wife, you can imagine that. And the mother-in-law and the father-in-law, a family man, totally, all the way, He says, I couldn't get this thing out of my head. I just couldn't. And he's a smart, intelligent person who is not a stranger to irrational thinking. He's somebody who knows how to make decisions. And he says, I couldn't shake it off. And a week later, I went out there and I bought the bike. I bought the motorcycle. And he says, why did I do that? He's analyzing all of this while he's talking to me. He says, because I felt that I was going to be happier if I had this thing in my life. And he says, so the first chance we had, we all went for a ride together, me and 2 buddies of mine. And he says, by the end of the day, I decided to sell the bike. I said, why? Why would you do that? Now, he's a very social person, this guy. He loves to sit down and talk to you face to face, so you will understand the next thing that he said to me. He said to me, I spent the whole day looking at my friends behind. We couldn't talk, we couldn't do nothing. I was just riding my bike and looking at this guy's back, and what's the fun in that, and he went and he sold the bike. Sometimes we get these urges, where you want to do something that later, it's going to cost you, and you have this need, deep need in your body, and you think you're going to be happy if you have a new car, or a new bike, or a new furniture, or a new flat screen TV or something, and you can't even afford it, and you go out there, make a stupid mistake, and then you wonder why you never have any money. So we talked again, and he says, a month went by, I was working on a patient again, and he says, a thought came into my head. Something said to me, Steve, he lives in Chicago, Lake Michigan. Steve, you should own a small sailboat. And he says, same story, I'm not going to repeat it now again. Same story, right? You get something in your head, you can't get rid of it. He went out there, he bought the sailboat, he went out there on a first sailing trip of his life. You know what happened to him? Something went wrong with the sail, he was stuck in the Lake Michigan all day long. The Coast Guard had to rescue him. He sold the boat next to him. Mistakes and holes that we dig ourselves, right? And we can just relate to that because we dig these over and over and over again, and we think we learned, and we haven't learned. So those are the kind of mistakes that will cause you to have depression and negativity in your life, is the mistakes and the problems and the holes that you create for your own self. Nobody else is responsible for them except you. There is another kind of problems that will come into your life. These are the kind that you cannot control. And I always tell people, don't dig your own holes, because life will throw a whole bunch of problems your way without your help. Life doesn't need your help to create problems in your daily, day-to-day life, right? I mean, think about the folks, think about the person last summer, 42 years old, who all of a sudden went to the doctor, my friend Don, and found out that he had cancer at 42 years old. Think about his wife a few months later when he passed away. Think about people, who get up one morning and go to a doctor and find out that they have the onset of adult diabetes, and from now on they have to start shooting in their arm, the insulin, because their life completely changes. I mean, there are problems in your life that can come your way that you absolutely cannot control. Think about the person who is just going to go to work on Monday only to find out that the company is being sold and they have no job anymore. You can't control those kinds of things, right? And there is plenty of those things to come into your life. So please, one thing that we need to learn is life is going to give you plenty enough problems. Don't create your own. Be smart in the decision that you make so that you do not add to the depression and to the problems that are already coming your way. There is one other area, Peter, and now I want to mention that one because you're the one that mentioned it downstairs in the class. There is also the kinds of problems that Satan, devil himself, is willing and trying to, on purpose, to cause and create in your life. Amen. You think you're not important enough to Satan? You think he's going to leave you alone? I want to tell you something. The devil is real. He's out there. If you're a follower of Jesus, he's going to try to dismay you and to throw you off the direction that you're going in and to destroy your relationship with Jesus. And the number one tool that Satan uses in his arsenal is discouragement. He will try to discourage you, number one. And you get these feelings in your life. Maybe you made some mistakes in your own life, so you have problems that you have caused for yourself. Then on top of that, something else happens. You lose your job, things you cannot control, so your life is even worse. And then Satan, your enemy, he comes from another angle too. And he says, okay, I see. Peter now is in a bad spot. He lost his job, He made a few mistakes. Let me see if I can also throw the wrench into this whole soup and cause his life to be even worse than it is right now. If you are a follower of Jesus, if you want to have a relationship with Jesus, Satan is going to try to ruin your life. And there are many things, if you go back in your mind right now, there are many things in your life, in your relationships, in your personal life, in your job life, where Satan is sticking his fingers in and trying to cause you to be discouraged and to be negative and to give up. What do you need to do? Think about Jesus. Think about the cross. I want to say something else that we need to do. We need to think about Jesus in a different light. Now, after the Sabbath, as it began to dawn toward the first day of the week, Mary Magdalene and the other Mary came to look at what? At the grave. And behold, a severe earthquake had occurred, for an angel of the Lord descended from heaven and came and rolled away the stone and sat upon it. And his appearance was like lightning, and his clothing as white as snow. The guards shook for fear of him and became like dead men. And the angel said to the women, do not be afraid, because the one you are seeking is no longer here in this grave. Amen. Where was he? He's back up there. When you get up in the morning, I don't care if it's snowing, I don't care if it's cloudy, I don't care if it's raining, I don't care if you have lost job, I don't care if you are having a health issue. He is there. And he has more answers than you have problems. He has more solutions than you have troubles. He has it. Are you going to Him to get there? One thing that the person can do, that you can do to help your situation right away, is simply to focus on Jesus, because more than anything else is going to help you to adjust your attitude. More than anything else. If you realize that He's up there and He's willing to answer your prayers and He's going to work with you and He has your back and He's going to help you out, your attitude is going to change. When your attitude changes, a whole lot of things change also in your life. When you go to work with a smile on your face, how are you received by everybody else? When you go home from work and you walk into your house and you see your wife and kids and you have a smile on your face, how are you received by that wife and those kids? Or by that husband and those kids? How are you received? You know, when you change your attitude, a whole lot of things change in your life. People respond to you in a much better and more positive way than if you're always angry and mean and always depressed and always, oh, what's going on in my life? And nobody wants to deal with you then. I mean, when you see somebody coming who's always complaining, what do? You head for a door, I know. You just head for a door because you don't want to hear it. You got plenty of your own problems, right? So, focusing on Jesus helps us to change our attitude. And when we change our attitude, everything else changes in our life. And your life starts going uphill instead of downhill. Your relationships become better. You do better job at your work. You do better job in your family. You do just better job with everything. Let me tell you this. You do better job with your finances. You know why? Because when you give God what is, He gives you the smarts to make the right decisions for everything else that's coming down your way that month or that week. And if you ignore God, you know, if you don't give Him His, then He's going to say, hey, you know what? You don't give me mine? Go ahead, lead your life, do what you can. And what's going to happen? Nothing but trouble, nothing but trouble, nothing but trouble. How many people we have in this church who have come to me year after year, and said, Gordon, you know, as soon as I committed to do what God wants me to do financially and to give God His, you know, my life turned around. We got people here who got promoted. We got people here who got better jobs. We got people here who got raises. You know, we got people here who got brains all of a sudden, and they're not making the stupid mistakes that they used to before, you know, and their life, their finances, everything is just changing. Why? Because they're beginning to focus on Jesus. You have an opportunity to do that today, to focus on Jesus. You have an opportunity to adjust your attitude. You have an opportunity to do it in a physical, meaningful way. If there is a person that you have offended, if there is a person that you have hurt, right here in this sanctuary, you have an opportunity now to go downstairs and wash that person's feet and ask for forgiveness. If the person that you have offended is not in this congregation, you have an opportunity when we all go downstairs to wash each other's feet, you have an opportunity to just kneel down, close your eyes, and ask the Lord for forgiveness. And He's going to give it to you. You have an opportunity. I'm calling you, I'm inviting you now to connect to God. You heard what I have to say. Now I'm asking you in the next 15, 20, 30 minutes to just connect to God. You know, to ask Him for forgiveness. To ask Him to help you to change your attitude. To ask Him to limit the things, bad things that Satan can do in your life. To ask Him to just bless you in every area of your life. And to commit yourself to Him in every area of your life. And when you do that, then your life starts turning around because you see that Jesus is involved. Should I tell you the real quick testimony before we go? You know about our TV ministry. Friday nights, 9:30, TV 53. They are selling the TV station, and we got together and decided we are going to go off of the air because we don't know what's going to happen to the TV station, and we just need to save money, and on and on and on. And you know how you make all of these good reasons why you need to do something, right? And I didn't feel good about it because I like the TV ministry. Last night, Milos was on TV preaching, and I had 2 phone calls. One of them was from a young person, 21 years old, who called and wanted somebody to talk to him and tell his problems to that pastor. And I talked to this young person for about 15, 20 minutes. There are thousands of people who watch this ministry, and they tell me this all the time. I hear from people, and they tell me, Pastor Gordon, we saw the program on TV, and it was wonderful. So I prayed to the Lord, and I said, Lord, I really don't feel good about taking this ministry off of air, even if it's only for a few months. And I said, I need a sign. I'm telling you this because I want you to repeat this in your own life. Faith is something that comes by experience. You may not be sure that God is going to answer your prayer, but you need to ask. So I went and I said, Lord, I need a tangible, clear, drastic evidence that you want us to stay on air, if you really do want us to stay on air. And the TV station's manager called me last week, one day, and he says, Pastor Gordon, we talked to the main office, we talked to amongst ourselves here, and we feel that your message is too important. He didn't say to us, he said to this city. And as he was saying that, immediately I thought to myself, wow, this is an answer from God. This guy is saying the right words. And he says, we want to keep your program on air. It's not about the money. It's about the relationship that we have built with you over all of these years, and we are willing to cut your fees in half. 50%. Now tell me, is that a clear, drastic evidence from God as to which direction I need to go? You can have that same thing in your life. I'm begging you, connect to God, to that same Jesus who is in heaven, King of Kings, King of the universe. He has the solutions to anything that's in your life right now. And He can resolve it. But you need to connect. You need to find a way to humble, to ask for forgiveness, to connect. And I want to see experiences and testimonies like this from each one of you in this church.